I've done this at least 2 or 3 times, so some of you have been to this, and I'll go through it fairly quickly. And it's just a concept that I use starting out, that we help many people use. There's many people in this room doing this as we speak in terms of snowballing using real estate for financial freedom for retirement. So we're going to talk about this, and there's 2 more topics after that as well. So how much do you really need for retirement? Are there any financial planners, retirement planners in the room? Don't be sure. No? Okay. So there's a lot of things, and I'm not one, so I'm not, but I never shared real estate. I became a real estate agent in secret. Like, I just didn't tell anyone. And then I married someone that's very private. And like, yeah, that's great. That's what I'll talk about it. Great idea. And so we just did it. Not even my parents, not even my family didn't talk about it. And because, I don't even want to have, I'm 3 out of 8 kids. I'm good in the middle. Just leave me alone and I'll do my thing. So it wasn't until a few years ago that I actually started telling people that I invest in real estate. And one of my biggest regrets is not talking about this earlier with my own family. Right? So we talk about the expenses. Everyone's got to figure out what it costs to be you right now. And most people, or most financial planners will say, you're going to spend less money maybe when you're retired. I think I'm probably going to spend more money. You do more things, be my guess. Right? So you're factoring in a lesser lifestyle with money from 20 years ago that isn't going to be able to do what it will be able to do, right? With inflation, we talked about that. So that's important, is understanding your financial obligations now, projected into the future, because without that, we're driving blind. We don't know. Once again, I'm not a financial planner. I don't do any of this. But this chart, many of you may have seen something similar to this. And this talks about your nest egg that you need to retire to be financially free. And so this is $1 million, 1.2, 1.5, 1.7, it's all the way up to 6.25. It's called a 4% withdrawal rate. Anybody want to explain what that 4% withdrawal rate means in this context? Go ahead.
So it says that you can get safely take 4% of that amount per year and never run out of income or run out of money.
Yes. If you retire at 65 or later and don't live too long. Great issue. People are living too long. It doesn't work. Don't live too long. Just make sure you don't live too long, then you'll be okay. Also, make sure inflation doesn't happen. Oh, can't do that. Right? So this doesn't work. So what this is, it's been around for a very long time. It has been outdated for a very long time. But if you have a $100,000 a year lifestyle like Renee does, you need $2.5 million. You need $2.5 million in the bank. At 65, don't live too long. Make sure there's no inflation. You will be okay. And you can withdraw $100,000 a year. That's what it means. If you have a different lifestyle, it's different, right? However, it's flawed because of inflation. It's flawed because of many things. But this is a best case scenario chart. This doesn't make sense. It will not get you to where you want. So there's a lot of worries about real estate. We saw, this is over the last 30-something years, we saw a spike in the market, right? We saw a crash. We all know someone that lost a lot of money in that crash. Maybe we did, maybe you did. Everyone was affected by that. And so anyone thinking about real estate right now has that in their mind. It's understandable. So this red is that spike and that crash. And then this is your S&P 500 over that same period of time. We have a few spikes and crashes. And those are the 2 huge places that people have relied on for growth and equity for their retirement. Right? Value in your homes going up. People planning on that's going to be my nest egg. Or value of your stock portfolio going up. That's going to be my nest egg. Right? And if it goes down, there's an issue. Now, people will say over a long period of time, it will average out, continue to go up by 5, 6, 7%. Is that true? Absolutely. It is. I believe it will continue to go up. However, if you're 1 year away from retirement and you're here now, 50% of your portfolio is gone. Do you want to hear just wait it out? It'll average it out in the next 30 years? It does not work unless you have perfect timing. And that's stocks, it is real estate on the equity side as well. There's nothing wrong with the stock market. There's nothing wrong with Bitcoin. There's nothing wrong with equity in real estate. But using it for financial freedom is a timing game. Some people have won big, some people have lost big. But it's not the way to set up your financial freedom because there's no control. You cannot control that. Does that make sense? Over that same period of time, I wish I had a better chart. I guess I could create a better chart. I've been using this for about 3 years now. Same period of time. Blue line is rents. The most consistent thing that we see income-wise is rents. Rents continue to trend up. When people lose their homes, unfortunately, rents do better. More people need to rent. More demand. It does not drop and spike like everything else does. So that's why I love cash flow through rentals. I'm not saying it's the only thing that you can do, but it is, in my opinion, the best thing. We're going to talk about many of those options here today. So cash flow is king. Appreciation is where wealth is built. Millionaires are made through appreciation, and it's beautiful. But that is not where financial freedom is created. You might get lucky through appreciation, and if you cash out and time it correctly, perfect. If you're not lucky and you don't have the right timing, it doesn't work. Cash flow is what you need. And this is where you condense it down to 3 stages. Stage 1, doing it as a job. Stage 2, financial freedom. Stage 3, generational wealth. If you understand that, you separate them, it's easier. Yes?
You said that quote one more time. Millionaires are made through appreciation and cash flow.
I'm sorry, what was that?
Say the quote one more time. The statement you made. Millionaires are made through appreciation.
Cash flow is for financial freedom. Cash flow is for financial freedom. And I'm not saying one is more important than the other. Because you will hear investors say, I only do cash flow. I don't only do cash flow, I absolutely do other things. And you will say tell people, don't focus on cash flow. The real money is in appreciation. It's not a lie, but the real risk is in appreciation as well. Just understanding where you are is extremely important. And then you can focus on investments for the next year, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years that meet your criteria, not everyone else's. Airbnb has been like the most hottest investment right now, right? I love Airbnb. I have Airbnb. Do I think most people should Airbnb starting out? Absolutely not. Can you make a lot of money? You probably will. You'll probably triple yourself to make money as an Airbnb right now. At some point, that will stop. It is, yes, go ahead.
I have a question about the graph that you showed, that consistent growth.
Mhm.
So is that factor in both commercial? like
No, this is just residential, great point.
Okay.
Just residential. So commercial is a little bit different. It's a great asset class, once again, not the same here. That is in the generational wealth side. So we're going to talk about residential, long-term rentals as financial freedom, because it is one of the most consistent things, because there will never be a drop in need for that. You agree with that? Like, I thought about this. And we're in a crazy housing market right now, right? Like, it is a seller's market. It's tough to be a buyer. It's tough. Like, what would fix this market right now? How could we make it a level playing field so that it's now not so much of a seller's market? How do you do that? So I have the answer. Sitting in a movie theater, thinking, it's the Avengers. THANOS, right? Snap a finger, half of everyone's gone. That would solve the solution, and maybe if half of just the buyers left, maybe it would balance out. THANOS, that's it. Outside of THANOS, there is no solution for what we're going through right now. Nothing.
I'm not familiar.
Huh?
I'm not familiar.
Would you say that the pandemic has had an impact because there's certain markets that basically that people are not able to maintain their jobs for whatever reason, like a lot of industries like restaurant, hospitality, the people that were working there, that, you know, didn't have work anymore. So then I know personally a lot of people that had gone on unemployment.
Sure.
So then when that happens, you're not able to keep up with your mortgage. But then there was like the, you know, moratorium and all of that. But I guess in my mind, that's something that kind of similar to snapping your finger, you know what I mean? Because all of a sudden, like, people lost their jobs, were able to keep up with their mortgages, and now I'm hearing there's going to be a lot of foreclosures.
Extremely good, really good comment. So this is more on the real estate market side. My quick comment to that is, yes, a lot of people did not have income, and the government put things in place to make sure that they have the ability to pay their mortgage, correct? On many different levels, many different levels. It wasn't a perfect system. No one's been through this, and I will never talk politics with anyone at all. So it's not a political statement, right or wrong. They put things in place, and it stopped a lot of those foreclosures. And they're going to figure out a way to keep that, I believe. Will some people decide to sell because they built up too much debt in that process? Maybe. But what the last time the market crashed, the issue was there was not the equity in place. Right now, there's so much equity. People can decide. So they will do a legitimate sell and make money. Versus, I'm just walking away.
Yeah.
I've got no money left in this. Why am I paying my mortgage? I'm going to go rent over here for half the price. I'm just going to say bye to that, right? And if everyone does that at the same time, that's THANOS snapping his finger. That causes it, right? We have too much equity in the market.
But I'm like, weren't a large number of people who lost the job at the restaurant workers, they were renters, they were not property
Correct.
owners.
So the market that was hit the hardest were renters. Exactly. Everyone was affected. Everyone was affected, clearly. But the market that was hit the hardest, employment-wise, was a higher percentage of renters, and they had a lot of assistance in place. So I created something called the Snowball investment plan. And I created this for real estate agents, because I coach and train real estate agents. It works for everyone. I think there's some references to real estate agents in here, but the reality is it works for everyone because real estate as an agent is a job as well. You can make a lot of money doing it, just like any other job you're good at. You can make no money doing it, just like any other job that you might not be good at, right? So just like any job, at some point, you're gonna put that boulder down and say, I can't do it anymore. And if you don't have a big enough nest egg in place, it doesn't make sense. And guess what? The nest egg you thought you needed wasn't big enough anyways. And so we need passive income, and been doing it through real estate investing on this side. So we'll go over some examples before we break down a few different scenarios as well. So $100,000 passive income for life example, half. Here are some key numbers and scenarios and some assumptions. Once again, these are just generic assumptions so we can go fast through this scenario. And I've sat down with probably 15 or 20 people in this room to do this specifically to work in your scenario. So depending on your neighborhood, your area, where you want to focus, these will change. All right, monthly rent of a single family home unit is 1%. The 1% rule, which means if I buy it for $100,000, it's going to rent for $1,000 a month. We live in Ashburn, Loudoun County, Fairfax County. Average sales price is $3 million or something like that, right? It's a lot. I haven't checked today. It's probably close. Let's say $700,000. Is the average rent 1% of that, which would be $7,000 a month? So doesn't make sense here. Is Loudoun County a bad place to invest? No, it's not. I invest in Loudoun County. I do not invest in cash flow in Loudoun County. It's different. If you're on the financial freedom track, it's not the right place to invest. It will hinder you to do that. Monthly rent of a duplex or multifamily. We're going to look for the 1.25% rule. Generic rule of thumb. We're going to go up a little bit higher because when you go to multifamily, you can scale, you can get a little bit more. Also, there's sometimes more expenses involved in owning a duplex versus a single family home as a landlord. So if it's $120,000 purchase, instead of $1,200 a month, it's gonna be $1,500 a month rent. These are just some basic assumptions. Taxes, I'm just gonna chalk up as 1% of the purchase price. So if I buy it for $120,000, it's gonna be $1,200 a year. Clearly, that will vary based on the area, but that's a pretty close rule of thumb. Insurance, I used to say 0.5%, now it's 1%. It's probably closer to 0.75 on average, but I'm gonna use 1%. If you buy a $120,000 property, just write in your formula that you're gonna spend $1,200 a year. 25% down as a down payment. This is not something you're gonna live in. It's gonna be a pure rental property, investment property. You can get a 20% down, but you're gonna wanna do 25%, because if you do 20% down, you point with the lender, you're at a higher risk, it just becomes more expensive. You're gonna pay like 2 or 3 extra points in some scenarios. If you can save up 25%, it will be the best case scenario for you. And I'm just factoring in 4%. Clearly, that will depend on your credit score, your debt to income, the property itself. There's a lot of factors, but 4% is reasonable right now for an investor. And it's a higher price than regular if you're buying your first time home, your own home that you're living.
I'm not,
Yes,
what market you love for this idea right now, like where close to here? What?
great question.
West Virginia.
Great question. You're like 3 sessions away from that. She had that question like 3 months ago. She just bought her first fourplex, right? Look at that. Congratulations. You need to understand how to analyze deals. You can buy properties anywhere if you understand this concept. It doesn't matter. Once you understand this, then you're like, oh my goodness, yeah, sure are properties. Or there's none in my backyard, I guess I should go private. There's always properties of it. Property manager, I pay 10%. I pay someone, I set aside a minimum of 10% for vacancy repairs, reserves. That can be much higher depending on the age of the property and the condition of the property. But just for this example, we're putting aside 10% of the rent every single month just to cover things when you need it. And here's the key, I'm treating this like a retirement plan. If you put something in your 401k right now, do you go there tomorrow and say, never mind, I'm gonna spend that?
No.
If it goes up by 10%, you have a celebration, you just take that 10%, right? And just spend it? That's not what happens? Okay, so we're gonna treat this like that. Don't touch it. Do not touch it at all. Leave it in there like a retirement account and keep rolling it in to help you buy more real estate and more real estate. That's the key. Because that's the compounding effect that real estate investors typically do not get, that people that have traditional 401ks get, because they just can't touch it. If you have the discipline to not touch it, it'll go so much further. I'm not factoring in rent increase on this example. Not to say you can't increase rent. I'm just saying, worst case scenario, you never increase rent ever again. I want to make sure this works. And I'm not factoring in your property going up in value ever. If I buy a property today, and the market stalls for the rest of my life, and it doesn't go up, and worst case scenario, it goes down, I'll still be happy with my purchase because I bought it because of cash flow.
In this example, are you referring to properties that are already in livable condition? Like someone could just move in right away after you buy it?
Yes, yes. There are some value add scenarios, but yes, in this example, just for simplicity's sake. So this is going to be, I think, a 10-year program as an example. Generic numbers here. Single family purchase at the 1% rule. Let's say someone says, I can put aside $36,000 a year. Everyone has a different number. Some people have $0. Some people have $500,000, right? Everyone's somewhere between $0 and $500,000 a year. You figure out what you can put aside every single year, whether it's through more earning, more commissions, go do a side hustle, reduce your expenses, something along those lines. You got to come up with money, right? Start with that. $36,000 a year. In my opinion, it's very doable through many options. Breaking that, quick breakdown is, let's say 28,000, 25% down, and there's some closing costs with the loan involved, right? And so you're getting a 25% down loan. It buys a $112,000 property. Is that in Ashburn? No. Probably not. Probably not. It's a really good deal if you get that. Not happening in Ashburn. So 1% of that is $1,120 a month in rent. Based on that 1%, that 4% interest rate, your operating expenses, capital expenditures is $812. I did the math for you. That's everything that we just talked about. Taxes, insurance, your mortgage, all of that. So you minus those, you have now $308 a month PIFL. What does that stand for? Passive income for life. Is the most beautiful word you will ever hear. PIFL. So at the end of the year, you have $3,700. Who's retiring on that? Woo! No? That's the very first row, right? That's it. That's all it is. You're gonna stack these. You need multiple incomes to set it up, but you can push that boulder and let it go. If you have the right team in place. That's key. All right. So now we're not going to touch that 3,700. You're going to pull that aside and say, next year I'm going to do this again, plus that. This plus that. Okay? That's it. That's the whole magic behind this. There's no magic in just discipline. That's all it is. So now you're going to do $36,000 again, plus that 3,700 PIFL allows you to buy a slightly bigger property. Goes through all the numbers, all the assumptions we just talked about. Now you have just under $8,000 a year. No one's retiring yet. Okay. Next year you can do it again. $36,000 plus that. So now you have a bigger down payment, bigger property. Your cash flow is way bigger. Guess what? You're in the duplex range. You can go up slightly higher on your multiple. You're at 1.25% now. Now you got $16,000 a year of passive income. We're going to fast forward a little bit more. Year 3, you're reinvesting it. You're coming up with $36,000 plus your PIFL. You're at $26,000 a year of passive income.
That's year 4.
This is year 4. Then you're going to go to year 5. You're bringing $36,000 that year. The whole year, figure that out, right? Go do something. Go drive Uber. Go eat ramen. I don't care what you do. Figure it out. That's the plan. Plus, your properties are working for you. $26,000, right? Here's what I love in this scenario. Year 6. Look at that. Imagine. You're bringing $36,000. Your property is like, I got this. They're working harder than you are. Your properties are bringing more money than you are that year. Once you get your properties to work harder than you, it snowballs much faster. It becomes so easy after that. So easy. You're going to buy bigger properties. You're doing the exact same thing. You're eating ramen or whatever you're doing to get that $36,000. Now you're at $53,000 a year. Then you're going to go to year 7. Your property's bringing in almost 2 times as much as you. You're at $72,000 a year. You're at year 8. You're at year 9. And you're at year almost 3 times as much. And then year 10, you're still just bringing $36,000 that year, but your properties are just working. They're working way harder than you are at this point. They're saying, I got this. You do what you do. You're at $155,000 a year passive income. Very, very simple. It's just math. Do most people follow a 1 per year for 10 years? No. Most people do 1, 2, 3, 10, 20. Like at some point it gets so much easier. Like you're in this space as an investor, the deals find you, it becomes easier. Starting out, it's important to space it out because guess what? Who here doesn't have a rental property yet? You're a terrible landlord. Guarantee it. Guarantee it. And you'll probably be a terrible landlord. Then you're gonna figure it out. You're gonna get better. Give yourself a year to figure it out before you have all your properties to mess up on. Maybe figure it out. Too many people. I had this conversation with 3 people today that bought their first property in the last 2 months that are looking to buy their second property right now. There's a few of them in this room. Don't do it. You want to space it out to start because you need to give yourself room to grow. Because guess what? You will get better, and the better investor you become, the better deals you find. They find you, the better understanding you have of analyzing these deals. This is about as plain Jane as you can get, about as simple as you can get. There's nothing creative about what we just talked about. All it is buy properties that meet this criteria and don't spend your money. That's it. If you do that, And if you are okay with $155,000, you have a plan that will work. I've helped many people do this exact plan. At the end of, and I'll send these notes out if you want. I know there's a lot of writing here. So this is exactly what we just talked about in year one, breaking down line item, $36,000 invested. You're buying $112,000. You're getting $3,700 a year. PIFL. Year two, $36,000 plus the previous year. That's what you're purchasing, $8,000 PIFL. And so line item by line item just shows you how it snowballs and continues to grow. The only thing that you do is don't spend your money that you earned. It wasn't your money, it was your retirement plan's money. That's all it is. Treat it like a retirement plan, it will grow way more than any retirement plan you have. You got 10 years, and this is not equity, this is not money you spend. Let's say you're done at 10 years. This is passive income for life. That does not go down. It does not go down. Can it go up? Yes.
I got a question. Okay, suppose number, the one property that you bought the first year, and you decide to sell that property because you got a bigger deal and you want to invest the cost that you, the price that you got for the first property you sold, and you want to add it to maybe your 10th year. Sure, that would.
So we're talking about income, right? You need income. All of these are little jobs for you. They're all income. Took you some work, you push the boulder,
Right.
and if you never do anything in, it just continues to go and brings you in income. The checks come, the direct deposits come, and that's it. The moment you sell it, if you do it for a good reason, hopefully you buy a better income, that absolutely makes sense. If you sell it and don't buy the income, now you have a nest egg, which is money in the bank. You know how much I love money in the bank, right? So this will go up because you can raise rents, because inflation causes people to have more money. So then it's logical to raise rents. We're not factoring in any raise rents in this scenario at all. We're not factoring in any increase in value in this scenario. It is about as worst case scenario that you can talk about. Yes.
For a PIFL plan, what type of corporation do you recommend? LLC, S corp, trust?
Great question. So our next session, we're gonna like bore you to death on LLCs. So the quick answer is you do not need an LLC. To start out. You do not, absolutely do not need an LLC because this requires you to get good loans. Good loans do not happen to LLCs. They happen to you. They happen to you. Once you're a good investor with a good portfolio, that changes. So you do not need an LLC for your first property. Maybe once you have a portfolio, yes.
My question is, the type of loan that we mentioned here, 4%. Were you referring to a 15 years or a 30?
30 years, sorry, this is a 30-year fixed scenario just for this example. Obviously, you're gonna have multiple options, 30-year fixed. So at the end of 10 years, here's what the breakdown looks like. You have $155,000 a year passive income for life. This is after your expenses, after your reserves. So you're actually getting more than this, but you're putting aside reserves. And you can give this to your kids, you can give this to your grandkids, because it will go on forever, as long as you keep these properties. And it will go up if you raise rents. What's another way it might go up in the future? No? Appreciation doesn't increase your income.
Fixing it up.
Fix it up, so raising rents, right? So let's say you keep them and 30 years later, all your mortgages, every year you start to pay them off.
I did not.
So once again, we're talking about cash flow here, not equity. We're not even touching equity on this. We're talking about cash flow.
Because mortgage will be paid off.
Yeah, absolutely. This factors in after you pay your mortgage. Once your mortgages are paid off, then it'll be higher, right? In 30 years, and then in 31, you'll have 2 paid off, and in 33, and put me on refinance out of it, pull that cash out. But it could, right? So you have 31 rental units in this example. You have $2.8 million of real estate owned, assuming that it never raised value ever. You bought it for that price, it never went up ever. $360,000 investment, which was $36,000 a year for 10 years. That's a lot. Figured it out, it's a lot of ramen, right?
A lot of over.
A lot of Uber, right? Awesome. Good work. Positive cash flow of $591,000 over that 10-year period. Already, that's what you brought in during that 10-year period, which is more than you put in. So that is already in that 10-year period, 164% return during that period. So this example or this experiment of let me figure out if I can be financially free, paid for itself before you're done. Debt pay down, gain equity, not factoring any of that. Rent increases, tax savings, we're not factoring in any of that. Yes.
I thought lenders didn't want to lend an individual more than 3 loans at a time or whatever. Isn't there some?
Yeah, great question. So,
How do you
there
get
are
the- how do you
there are various limitations and every lender is different, right? So the most general consensus is 10 loans in your name. There are many lenders that will do way more than that. I'm not gonna tell you how many loans I have in my name. A lot of numbers. Actually, they're all in my LLC. So 10 loans, the most common knowledge for Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac. If you're getting a conventional loan. 10. So great question, individual. So if you are married, start getting them separately, because now you can do 20 loans. You might not get to 20 loans, because guess what? Debt to income might kick in at some point. Right? You might only qualify for 1 or 2 loans. We don't know. But if you buy cash flow at a good rate, that will become income for you, and it will help you to qualify for your future purchases. If you buy equity without cash flow, that's just debt, no income, it makes it harder to qualify. That's why starting out with cash flow through financial freedom sets up everything much, much easier. Yes.
What kind of protections do you have?
Hire a good agent. Hire a good agent. We'll fix it. I hire a good agent. Never been a problem. All right, we're gonna do a couple examples real quick.